There's a dog asleep on your bed right now. Head on your lap, maybe snoring through your favorite show. Now take all of that away. The leash, the vet visits, the couch privileges. What's left is roughly 100 pounds of muscle built to bring down an elk. A bite close to 3 times stronger than yours. That's what was circling outside your ancestors' fire, eyes reflecting the flames. And somehow, it ended up here, sleeping, trusting, on your bed. Dogs were living alongside humans at least 10,000 years before a single seed was ever planted. Two predators that competed for the same prey somehow stopped competing and started sharing a fire. This is how, and why it's still happening in your body today. Picture the problem clearly. 15,000 years ago, in Ice Age Eurasia, humans and gray wolves were hunting the exact same animals. Same prey, same frozen landscape, same starvation risk if the hunt failed. In nature, that's not a recipe for friendship. That's a recipe for two predators trying to kill each other over the same carcass. So why would any hunter-gatherer let one of the most dangerous animals in Eurasia anywhere near their children? For decades, the honest answer was, we don't know. We're guessing. That's changed. Scientists can now read this story in places that don't lie. The chemistry sealed inside fossilized teeth. DNA trapped in bone for millennia. Footprints frozen in cave clay since before the pyramids were dreamed of. This is not a reskinned dog from a cartoon. It's an apex predator built for killing large, dangerous mammals. A gray wolf's jaw closes with something like 400 pounds of pressure per square inch. Yours closes at around 120. Wolves hunted in packs, running down prey for miles across the mammoth steppe. Humans were hunting the exact same herds of mammoth, bison, and wild horse, across the exact same ground. Two apex predators, competing for an identical, shrinking food supply. Something had to interrupt that standoff before either species would tolerate the other anywhere near a fire, a sleeping child, or a kill. One of them was only tested with real math for the first time last year. Bolder, calmer wolves started trailing human camps for scraps and bones. Run that quietly for a few thousand years, and you've bred a new animal without a single person choosing to. A 2025 mathematical model from James Madison University found that even modest leftovers could sustain a small, tamer wolf population. But archaeologist Maria Lahtinen proposed something almost the opposite in 2021, that Ice Age humans deliberately fed captive wolf pups the excess lean meat their own bodies couldn't safely use. Push your body's protein intake too high with almost no fat, and you get what Arctic explorers called rabbit starvation, nausea, diarrhea, and eventually death, even with a full stomach. Wolves don't have that limit, humans do. Feeding the leftovers to a wolf pup wasn't cruelty, it solved a problem. Neither hypothesis has won. What both agree on is that this wasn't romance. It was two starving species finding a loophole. Not from myths, from genetics and geology. Ancient DNA extracted from fossilized teeth and bone lets researchers compare the genetic code of long-dead wolves and dogs. The timeline keeps getting pushed backward. In 2026, a team from Oxford, the Natural History Museum in London, and LMU Munich extracted ancient DNA from a dog jawbone at Gough's Cave in England, dating confidently to between roughly 16,000 and 14,000 years ago, squarely when every human on Earth was still a hunter-gatherer. No farms, no permanent villages, just fires, meat, and, apparently, dogs. Some disputed remains from Siberia and Belgium may push the story back even further, to 30 or even 40,000 years. Every few years, a new lab pushes this timeline further into the past. We've been underestimating this friendship since the moment we started studying it. And then there's the single most haunting piece of evidence in this entire story. In Chauvet Cave in southern France, deep in total darkness, archaeologists found footprints preserved in soft clay for roughly 26,000 years. A child, somewhere around 8 to 10 years old, walking calmly through the cave, carrying a torch. Right beside the child's footprints, matching its pace step for step, are the paw prints of a large canid, tracked for nearly 150 feet. The middle toe on those paw prints was shorter than you'd expect on a wolf, a trait more common in early dogs, though the identification remains debated. At one point, the child's footprint slips slightly in the wet clay. Not running, walking calmly, torch in hand, next to an animal with a bite that could kill in seconds. We can't prove which species that animal was. What we can prove is that by 26,000 years ago, something between these two predators had already changed. Here's the piece of evidence that changes everything. In 1914, quarry workers near Bonn, Germany uncovered a grave roughly 14,000 years old. A man, a woman, and, researchers later discovered, two dogs. One was a puppy, about 7 months old. Veterinarian Luke Janssens, examining the puppy's teeth in 2018, found it had suffered a brutal 3-phase illness called canine distemper, a disease that kills nearly 90% of untreated cases within 3 weeks. This puppy survived roughly 8 weeks past infection. That's only possible with intensive, unglamorous care. Warmth, cleaning, water, food. Given to an animal that, while sick, was completely useless for hunting, guarding, or anything practical at all. Someone kept a dying, unproductive puppy alive for 2 months, 14,000 years ago, for no reason except that they didn't want it to die. Here's what should stop you. That instinct didn't disappear. When a dog and its owner stare into each other's eyes, both of their brains release oxytocin, the exact same bonding chemical a mother's brain releases while holding her newborn. They tested wolves raised by hand from puppyhood, with owners who loved them just as much. Nothing happened. No chemical spike at all. Only dogs trigger it. Only in us, and only in them. Whatever chemistry that dying puppy in Bonn sparked in the people who cared for it 14,000 years ago wired itself so deep into both species. That firelit truce out on the Ice Age tundra was never really about hunting help or table scraps. It was the opening move in a friendship that's still being written. One long, ordinary stare across your living room at a time. If this changed how you'll look at your dog tonight, subscribe. The next 14,000 years of this story are just getting started.